Yo, everybody, what is going on Tuesday night? You know what it is. It's Flyers Talk A to D. We got trade rumors. Flyers and Maple Leafs rumored to be making a deal. Who's involved? Obviously, we know one because it's in the show title, and that's going to involve Nick Robertson, brother of Dallas Stars, Jason Robinson. But who's going back the other way? What else could be involved? Will Nick Robinson be a good fit for the Philadelphia Flyers? There's also big changes afoot in Toronto as well. Little Maple Leaf centric show, but you still hit that like, you still hit that subscribe, comment in. We want everybody to comment in as always. It's time to talk some hockey. Let's get this.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to a brand new edition of Flyers Talk A2D, right here on A2DRadio.com. I am Matt Sensuti, along with the Darkwing Brian Daly.
This could be an interesting show. I am exhausted.
Okay. The Broken One, Rob Povia.
Hola, ¿cómo estás? Muy bien.
You too?
And Mr. Blue Shirt, Mr. Broadway, Mr. Switzerland, Big Bad Brad Ryer.
Good evening, folks.
And today, the Flyers Talk A2D is brought to you by Specialized Physical Therapy, the Dr. Paul Vidal. You got any aches and pains that are bothering you so bad, in fact, that you can't really just deal with it, then you probably want to solve that problem. What better way to do that than to go to Specialized Physical Therapy? Make an appointment at www.specializedphysicaltherapy.com. Go to either Cherry Hill or Burlington, New Jersey. They got great, amazing teams over there on either location, and after a couple of sessions with them, you'll feel as good as new. You won't have any aches and pains anymore. Not only will it help your physical health, it'll probably help your mental health too. You'll feel even better up here as you are physically out here. So,
a little bit of serotonin, baby. Let's go. It goes a long way.
Not only do you get live reads on this station, but you get deep insight in the live reads. So where do you get that? Where do you get that? Nowhere.
And the poll question for today is: Flyers should make a deal with the Maple Leafs for Nick Robertson. Agree or disagree? As Brian alluded to in the intro there, Nick Robertson possibly coming to the Philadelphia Flyers in trade rumors. He has been linked to other teams as well. So the question is it possible that the Flyers have a little bit more extra to offer that maybe the Maple Leafs would be a little bit more interested in to send him our way? Or should we even fancy or flirt with this idea? Or should we just leave it alone and just stick with what we got? Gentlemen, I leave it to you. Agree or disagree? Where do you fall on this?
Part of me agrees with this. I like that he's a 22-year-old player. That's like the big selling point for me because this is, in fact, a rebuild. And yes, the Phillies stink right now. Say what you want about the pitching. You don't score any runs, you don't give yourself a chance. So,
look who's complaining. We just lost by 10 runs to the stinky White Sox.
And
you're complaining.
That's tough.
Yeah, we can complain. It's all good.
That's okay. How'd you like to be a Mariner fan tonight? They're losing 15-1 to Detroit.
Good for them. That's what I say.
That's what I say too. That's great. But as far as Nick Robertson goes, I mean, he's not quite as good as his brother Jason, but you know, he's also a little bit younger, which is a good upside. I think he actually does have a little bit of a fit into the style that John Tavares likes. This kid does have a very hard forecheck, which I really like that about him. His puck pursuit, you know, that kind of ties together with how he forechecks. And if you watched a little bit that he's been a part of this, the NHL last year, and I think if 56 games he played for the Maple Leafs. You can see a little bit of that. I mean, he definitely has some offensive upside. He does have his own set of skills, quick feet. His hands, though, can be a little sloppy at times, but I mean, he still has a ton of upside. He could be a good fit for this organization as a middle six player. I'd say more like the third line, but yeah, it depends on who you want to give up. I mean, I don't necessarily think the Flyers should take on another winger, but I mean, it's probably not a bad thing to always consider youth at this point in time. I mean, they're not at the point yet where they want to start bringing in vets, but you know, freeing up cap space right now should be the Flyers' number one priority. And if you can shed some cap and get a deal with this kid who's got 1 year left on a $796,000 contract, right now that's a win. He's an RFA at the end of the year, so the Flyers will stay in control. So this is, to me, it depends on who you're giving up to get him. I heard Scotty Laughton's name in him. I've heard Morgan Frost. I'm sure there's probably other names being thrown around. But if we're talking Scotty Laughton, love him to death. Would love to keep him here. But if in the right deal, Nick Robertson is a part of it and Scott Laughton goes back the other way, let's talk about what the rest of the deal would be. Because you may be able to sway me on that one. Just for mainly salary cap reasons. So that'll free some up. So part of me agrees. I'm not fully on it, but part of me agrees.
Well, we have Pete saying he agrees to the poll. Mike is saying disagree. Stick with what you got. Priz threw out, wouldn't want to give up a center and not get one in return. He also goes on to say that Minton and Liljegren would be a better deal than Robertson. And, I mean, if the Flyers did get Liljegren, I would love to just keep on calling him Little Jurgen the entire year.
Didn't you do that the first time you saw him?
Yeah, first time I read his name, I was just like, oh. It just popped into my head, Little Jurgen. And ever since then, that's what it is. Hey, listen, it's better than
Little Jurgen.
Yeah, the wee little feller.
I remember that because we were doing a live reaction show. I think we were still in the garage at that point.
Yes. And what's funny is it's like, I mean, hey, it's better than Asplund because my nickname for him is, you could probably figure that one out for yourself. And also Comtois, you could probably figure that one out too. So, but anyway, see what else we got here. Anthony's saying, hey guys.
What's up, man?
He also says, bring back Yager. Benny's saying, I have a strange feeling that Scotty has a bounce back year. And so, guys, go on ahead. Keep on shooting out your agrees or disagrees to the poll. And shoot out those comments.
Should be a poll in the YouTube chat. If it's not there.
Oh, yeah.
But if it is there, definitely vote. We'll give you the results later on in the show.
Yeah. I voted. Immediately.
And since you did vote, Robbie, what way did you vote?
To quote our esteemed colleague Prism, and this was offline here before the show, giving up centers for wingers is the opposite of what y'all need. And I couldn't agree more with Prism, that is, not this poll. If the deal is for Scott Laughton, I guess I'm okay with it, to take a shot, to Brian's point on Robertson, to see if he can maximize his potential with a new address here in Philadelphia. The price is right, as it's only going to cost a low cost to the cap this year, and he's a restricted free agent for next season. He drives the puck real well. I think to the net with speed and soft hands. I like his hands. I think I like his neutral zone presence the best. He's got a really active stick, creates a lot of turnovers. But the major rumor that I heard and read was Morgan Frost for Robertson and Kalle Yarncrook, a soon-to-be 33-year-old center. No thanks. I'm good on that. I'm good on that right there. Now, that is getting a center back, to Prison's point, but like I mentioned last week, why we could see Frost trending up this season, And despite the success and limited time on ice for Robinson, I just don't see the same upside from a less important position of need for this team. Plus, are you okay with getting a player who's asking to be traded? The Flyers just got rid of one of those, so I think I'm kind of good on that. And Robertson already has a history of injuries. He's 22, but with the latest with his shoulder, it questions his durability, and there's already been questions as he struggled with defensive consistency. Now, you can make that same argument for Morgan, but he is of the center ice variety. Now, Robertson, he plays left wing, and they could use another left winger. The depth is really on the right side, but I could just see Morgan scoring 30 points per season up in Toronto as I eat my imaginary popcorn and cry here in Philly, a la JVR.
But just make some real popcorn. You don't have to eat invisible.
Well,
Why
I
tease
think
yourself?
But don't you see that you finally, you're trying to make moves and you're committed to this rebuild, right? And a lot of people say with Frosty that, well, he's been in the league for 6 seasons. I think that's unfair. I think you really can't count 24, 25 games in the first 2 seasons of his career with the pandemic and everything, really putting behind his development as well as his own injury up top in the upper body as well. But I mean, you got to I talked about last week. Go back to last week's show after this week's show on the YouTube, right? And talked about how he led up this team in a lot of scoring categories. I think it'd be unfair to give up on him. He's that type of player that you trade him away and then all of a sudden he's he's leading the league in goals. He's leading the league in points. And you're just really sorry you let go of that asset, especially for a team that could rebuild in a lot sooner of a timeline than they maybe originally thought.
No, and I love the point you made. Like, the one reason why I would be okay with this trade, and obviously not for Frost. Frost has so much upside. He's getting ready to come into his prime. Another year or two, still developing. As long as he's on the top 6, the kid produces, and he's becoming a really tremendous playmaker. And he's starting to show his value on the power play too, which is great. The only reason I would ever do this is for exactly what you said, Rob, and that's the left wing depth is not really there. You have Farabee, which is great. Tippett can play both sides. Again, great. So that covers your top 2 lines. What do you really have after that? That's where I think there could be some value here to adding Nick Robertson, because he could be a third line winger, which is what I believe is in Toronto right now. Put up about 30-something points. I would take that. Absolutely, I would take that. But again, like I was saying in the beginning of the show, I'm going to be broken record Brian here. Depends on what you're getting back. That trade that we saw of Yarncrow and Robertson for Frost, it fills a couple needs, but I don't think the value is there.
Right.
I just don't. The return value is not there unless Nick turns into a superstar or something into like the way his brother is. And I mean, how many times do we really see that when there's one good brother in the NHL, the other brother is usually never as good? So, I mean, there's a lot to think about in making this trade, and that's why I think I would be more okay with Laughton being traded than Morgan Frost. And again, you're going to take more money off the books with a Laughton deal than you are with the Morgan Frost deal.
Right, trade him straight up, and that way you get younger instead of, all right, you put money towards Hathaway, who I believe is 32 years of age, right? And then if you're going to bring in a center, right, to replace Frost, to get older doesn't make any sense. But if you were to trade Scott Laughton at maybe his peak trade value, that probably would have been done maybe prior to either last year's trade deadline or the year before. But still, you can get max value on that. Trade up for an upside guy. If he works out, great. If not, it doesn't cost you that much. That's a really smart deal. But
so, a couple things. First, you save the real popcorn for when good shit happens. Secondly, I will say that let's not doom poor Nick Robertson's career to the Brett Lindros, whatever Wayne Gretzky's brother's name was.
Brett.
To that, yeah, Brett Gretzky. Let's not doom the poor kid to that status already. That's a pretty terrible thing to do.
Marty
to a
Howe.
kid. Yeah. Let's not do that yet.
No, I mean, this was a second-round pick. You know, you're
Yeah.
talking about that what, 5 years ago? You know, he's still in his development too, right?
Mm-hmm.
He hasn't really gotten a fair shake. You know, he only played in about 56 games last year. That's why he's requesting out of Toronto.
Mhm.
Right. Understandable.
And that's also kind of, before I let you go, Matt, real quick. Ted, what's up? I'm glad you love it. Dude, we've missed you in the chat. Maddie, take it away.
All right. Well, before we go to Ted's question, which he had one earlier about Trevor Zegras, and we'll talk about that in a minute. I'll star that comment. Anthony's also saying he heard Crosby and Malkin are going to get traded at the deadline. I don't know about that.
No.
I'm not sure about that one. We do have like, subscribe, hit the bell icon. We got Atlanta Fan Stan saying hello. What is up, Atlanta Fan Stan?
What's up, Stan?
And he's also going on saying Atlanta was in a rebuild since the expansion draft.
Oh, boy.
True
Sounds
story.
true.
That is true. But hey, man, Atlanta Fan Stan, you might get another NHL team. It may very well happen. Actually, it is going to happen. I am reserved to the fact that this is an actual thing. It will happen when the next expansion comes around, whenever that'll be. So with that, Priz saying Fraser Minton could have a higher ceiling than Frost, in my opinion, but I know what Frost is so far. Prism has also said Toronto has to shed cap, hence why they're talking about making trades.
So does Edmonton, and Edmonton might be out 2 key pieces because they're probably going to go to St. Louis.
Yeah.
Find out later.
Benny's Nation saying, not about him playing a third line. It's about an increase in minutes because Torts will roll 3 lines more than what they do in Toronto, where they are so top 6 heavy, which is true.
Right.
And he probably
never
got any power play time in Toronto either.
No, and he was getting healthy scratched at points as well. And I think it's if you want a guy to develop, I mean, or sent down to the AHL a lot too. You know what I mean? So it's at least in that you're keeping him playing, you're keeping him skating. But a healthy scratch, that's a questionable call for a young developing player.
Right. Ted saying, when's Brad going to get his spin-off show? He's the wacky next-door neighbor right now.
Well, like
I haven't even
Wilson?
said anything yet.
Not yet, but Ted's already anticipating it.
I'm getting pounded already, and I haven't opened my mouth yet.
Ted knows. He's been here long enough.
Yeah, that's true.
I bet he's saying, at least put him at Wayne Primo level. All right, I'll let you go on the Wayne Primo. We'll go to Wayne Primo status. That's where he'll be.
Oh, man. Fair enough.
He had a solid career.
Yeah, you could have 2 Kachuks, too,
That's true. That's true.
They're the exception, though. They're the exception to the rule. But I like the positive spin on it. I do like the positive spin on it.
Hey, the Lindgren brothers are both pretty good.
That's true, too.
I mean, the Stahl brothers did pretty well for themselves.
That's what I'm saying.
So.
I think he could be a 1B to his older brother Jason. I mean, he does have great speed. I saw him take a breakaway coming out of the penalty box late last season, and really has a nose for the net. Creates turnovers in the neutral zone, like I pointed out before. Right, there's a lot of key aspects to his game, even if it's not resulting on the score sheet, so he could be like that type of B-level player. But I mean, the hands are there. I think he's got really good soft hands around the net, and with that will come goals.
Guys, you know what his Corsi level is?
What?
Which to me tells all. It's over 52. I mean, there is something to be said about that. That's puck possession, and that is a very good number, especially for a young player.
Its smaller sample size affected a tad bit, but that's still a really positive sign, Brad.
Yeah, I mean, think about that. That's
right.
You're talking about a guy who, you're on the attack when he's on the ice a lot more than the other team is, and you know what? He's not playing with the best players on the team. You know, he's on the third line, which probably very rarely played. And when they did play, they're, probably facing the other team's first line because they don't want to waste the first line's energy playing power against power. That's not how usually they do it. So, I personally, guys, I would stay away from this player only because of what they're asking for. I don't want to trade Scott Laughton or Frost for him and for Robertson at all. I like Robertson. Don't get me wrong, okay? But if you only have a limited amount of guys who you want to trade right now, okay? You need a center. You don't need a left wing. You need a young center. If you're going to trade these guys, okay, or if you're insisting on making a trade, try to get Zegras. Sorry, Brian, I don't mean to hurt your feelings there about that, but you get my point.
He's gone. It's a matter of time. He was already traded to Montreal. They nixed the trade. So Zegras is good as gone. So I'm not.
Well, if not Zegras, a young center. I would rather. I mean, come on, you guys need to get a center. Don't waste your guys that you have, your assets, on a left wing. I get it. He's a young player and he's got some ability. Okay, if you got a young player to give back to Toronto, that's fine. And the other thing with Toronto is, don't forget they only have about $925,000 right now in cap space. So if you trade with Toronto, you're going to have to eat half the contract as well. Especially if it's Laughton. Laughton's making what, $3 million this year, or his cap hits $3 million.
Yeah, it's close to around that, if not that.
Yeah, I mean, if you're trading Laughton, then you're looking at a situation where you're going to have to probably take back 50% of the contract. I mean, come on, why would you want to do that?
It's a rebuilding team. You know how many teams do that during a rebuild?
No,
it's normal.
I understand that, but a guy like Laughton, you can trade him and do better than that. So I'm saying they could take the whole thing. I don't like the idea. Frost, first of all, I like Frost, and I think Frost is going to get better. He's also a center, and you guys really, really, really need to pick it up as far as the center position is concerned. Okay, you're never going to be a big time scoring team, even with Michkov. If you don't fix that center position, you've got to get some centers. And if you're going to take your assets and you're going to trade them, get a center. And I have nothing against Robertson. Okay, and if you can figure it out without giving up a center, then go for it. But I disagree to the poll strictly on the fact that I don't want to trade any centers for him.
The only thing that I'm going to say real quick, Matty, is I don't think Zegras is going to be the answer. Because if you do trade for Zegras right now, let's say we do it today. Zegras becomes a Flyer. Boom, 30 seconds from now. He's probably not playing center. Because they already have the 4 center positions pretty much on lockdown. So right now he's going to be a left winger anyway. And you got to commit to him for this year and next year. At least if you trade for Nick Robertson right now, you see what he is. You let him play. He's an RFA at the end of the year. You're not impressed. Don't qualify him and let him hit free agency. And then you're still not spending that much money. You're putting more money into Zegras than you would this kid for potentially maybe the same amount of points. Maybe the same questions about durability. Zegras right now is scheduled to be a third-line center for the Ducks this year. That's what he's projected to be.
And he's making $6 million.
He's making almost $6 million.
I don't like
that's
that.
why they want to trade him.
No, they don't want to trade him because the relationship between him and the organization has been soured by the contract negotiation.
Gotcha.
It's the same thing with Drysdale. Drysdale didn't like the negotiation
I'm only using him as an example.
I know, but I'm just the name keeps getting thrown around.
I know, but he doesn't necessarily have to be him.
How many years does Zegras have left on his contract?
This year and next year.
I mean, I don't like the $6 million on it, but if there's a feeling that he could work out in Philadelphia for a couple of years, and you don't have to worry about possibly resigning him, you can just let him walk by the end of that one or trade him off by the trade deadline the following year if he's having a real good season. You know, you could go down that route if you want to. But that would be where my head would be at. It's like, this is a guy that I wouldn't necessarily say we're keeping around here for 7 or 8 years. This is a guy that, if he's having a great season, then you trade his ass off as soon as possible.
He's only been, I mean, like I said, he's 2 years. He's had 60-plus points. As of right now, that's his ceiling. It's not that high for a guy who was honestly expected to be a number 1 lineman, put up offensive numbers, you know, in the 80s and 90s.
Right.
I mean, he's still really young, and he still has a huge step forward to take. But right now,
I mean, injuries has he had, Brian? What are the type of injuries has he exactly had? Seagrass, I'm talking about.
Shoulder. He had an ankle injury last year. He missed a lot of time.
Yeah, no, I know he has. That's why I'm wondering. I mean, is it fair to say that his ceiling is 60 points since he's missed a lot of time? But at the same point, you know, he's missed a lot of time. He also, you know, he keeps getting injured. And is this something? Is he going to be injury prone all the time and not going to be able to play?
Right. You already have an injury problem potentially with Drysdale.
Robertson is only 175 pounds too.
Right.
He's 183. Right. But yeah, your point's valid. But he's also not expected to be the next superstar in the NHL though either. There's a lot of hype. There's a lot of hype behind Seagrass coming into the NHL.
There was.
He hasn't lived up to it yet.
I mean, I don't know. It just seems like it's an unnecessary move. Yeah, it just seems like,
I agree. That's why I don't think he'd mesh with the Flyers.
Well, if he can't handle playing a rough style, which if he has injury problems in his history, that'll probably be that case, and that will not earn him any brownie points with our coach. So I definitely don't think they'd get along very quickly. So if potential headaches with taking that into consideration, and considering the fact that at best, the way I look at it is like, this is a guy that you trade after his contract's coming up if he has a bounce back year. And the bounce back year that he has is not going to be that phenomenal probably compared to what people would have expected from him when he first got brought into the league. So I would argue and say it just doesn't seem like it's a necessary thing for the Flyers to do. This seems like that's just kind of like a move to say we did something in the offseason, and then you scratch your head saying like, why? Why did you do that? It's like, this ain't the early 2000s anymore. We don't just make moves to make moves. That's something we've been talking about getting away from for a very long time.
And right now in the NHL, where the Flyers are with the rebuild, this is not the time to bring guys in. If you're going to bring anybody in, take a chance on a young guy. Doesn't matter the position. You take a chance on a young guy. You bring in the vets later. You got to shed cap. They have to shed cap this year. I know they're going to get a bunch of guys off the books at the end of the year, but they need cap to be able to lure some of the vets in. And I'm at the point where they can bring in vets. Like a trade for Laughton would make sense for the Ducks right now. A trade for Seagrass
would make sense for the Leafs right now.
But a trade for Seagrass or
the problem is I'm not even talking about the Flyers right now. I'm talking about the Leafs, okay? A trade to get Laughton would be a good trade for them, because you know what? They need a gritty guy who can win faceoffs and play center and play the third line and not be a big baby about playing on the third line. I mean, he could fill that void, and he's got some leadership too. I think he'd be an invaluable piece for the Leafs. So, I mean, if I'm the Leafs, I do it. But again, the problem is you're going to have to figure out the Leafs are really, really in salary cap trouble right now. Bad salary cap trouble. I just don't know how they could fit Laughton right now unless the Flyers take a piece. And, you know, if the Flyers are going to take a piece and take on some money, you're going to have to give them a pretty high draft pick to do that. So
let's see here. I started some other comments here. Oh, before I do that, Brad, agree or disagree?
Oh, I disagree to the poll. I don't like that trade for the Flyers. I want a center.
All right, then. So let's see here. What other ones we got that I start off here?
You know what SJ... I start off, Maddie?
What?
Hitting that like, hitting that subscribe, turning on the notifications, not missing a damn thing A2D has to offer. Got lots of stuff: basketball, football, baseball, hockey. Obviously, you're watching hockey. You got wrestling. We got something for everybody. So hit that like, hit that subscribe, turn on those notifications. And if you're on the Facebook side or the Twitter side, X, whatever the hell it wants to be called, hit that retweet and hit that share.
That thing that Elon Musk bought.
Yes, that thing.
So let's see here. On the starred side of things, Atlanta fan stand throwing out, who's your diamond in the rough, Bonker or Barkey?
Bonk.
I was going to say Bonk myself.
I'm going Denver Barkey, man. He's going to provide a goal-scoring ability that will be a key asset for this organization.
All right, then.
Always like college players who can score. They usually do score, and they usually score in the National Hockey League.
My man.
So Barkey on that one. All right, so we got two Barkeys and two Bonkers right here. Nice. I like it.
Hey. Both.
You know what? I just realized something. If those two, at the end of their time in the NHL, they should have their own podcast called Bonkies and Barkies. That would be a great name for a podcast, in my opinion. Maybe even a bar, too, really, when you think about it. Let's see. SJM86, what's up, brother? Saying, what's up, fam? I'd take the Laughton for Robertson deal straight up. Low risk, high reward. It loosens the cap for the future. Adds young talent who could blossom here with our young nucleus. And Priz throughout, Jesper Kotkaniemi could be a reclamation project and could get Carolina to eat 50% on that contract. Laughton for Kotkaniemi wouldn't be terrible if y'all could do what y'all did with Paling.
And that's why I hear what Brad's saying. I don't think this team is in any position to lose any center iceman or make any deal unless you're getting one back and it being on the minus 25 years of age variety, right? But if you're going to get rid of Laughton, right, and try to lower that, that cap threshold again with a cheap, restricted free agent in Nick Robertson, I believe from the show criteria, he would be only about a $800,000 cap hit, $796K. So I mean that's great for the finances, right? As you're still up against it as we move towards 25-26, but what it does is that at this point you could have some little flexibility with your roster. We've seen Noah Cates play center ice. He could shift back to a center ice position again, right? Maybe not a position of strength for now, but it could at least bridge the gap to some of the younger centers that this team has drafted, can go through their, maturity process and make it up to, as we've mentioned before. So it's not a bad. I could get on board with that before you lose all value for Scott Laughton, but otherwise, I'm with Brad. You want to keep. You really got to add to the center pool, not subtract at this point.
Robbie, the problem is Toronto is not in a position where they can take $3 million onto their salary cap.
But oops.
That's usually me. I usually do that.
Rookie mistake. My fault.
No, that's the problem.
Act like you've been there before.
How are the Leafs going to do it?
Right. I hear what you're saying, Brad.
Yeah, I mean, again, if I'm looking at the Leafs standpoint, okay, I would do it in a second because the Leafs are a now team. Okay, I would grab Laughton as quick as a poop through a goose. I think he'd be the perfect player for that team. That team needs a guy like that. But how are they going to add $3 million to their payroll when they only have $936,000 right now? Okay, that's how much they're under the cap. They've only got 20 players signed. Okay, they can't even fill out a roster. They can't get 23 guys. All right, how are they going to do that? Unless another trade is made somewhere else down the line, so they can add cap space. I mean, that's the problem. I mean, and Frost, how could you trade Frost for him? No way.
Here's how it could happen, and I agree with you, Brad, but here's the counter argument to it all is that, all right, we've seen Morgan Frost not exactly be John Tortorella's favorite player. We've seen him get healthy scratch. We saw him get benched at times due to poor play, right? And Morgan Frost's hometown is Aurora, Ontario, just under an hour from Toronto. So if he too is looking for a fresh start similar to Nick Robertson and a fresh start away from John Tortorella, it could be a beneficial situation for both organization and players. That's the only rationale that I see it. But I saw them work it out, and I saw Frost's level of play rise in the second half of last season.
Yeah, I mean, do you really want to trade one of these guys and then have to keep salary? What good does that do you? That's
right.
all. That's all I'm saying, guys.
Right.
You know what? Do you really want to hang on to $1.5 million to trade? Because that's what it's going to take to make that trade. If you trade Laughton, and you're going to have hold on to probably $1 million to keep to trade Frost out of his $2.5 million. So,
but again, that's what rebuilding teams do. They have to take that money back.
But you're worried about, you want to create cap space. Right. You're not creating cap space when you're doing that.
But you're freeing up half of that contract, so that's some space created.
Yeah, but you're still taking on him. You're still taking on Robertson.
But that's why that's just for 1 year, though. It's not like it's over a 3-year span.
Right.
Well,
how at the end of a contract?
Laughton is got 1 more year after this year?
I think he's on the last year of his deal. I'll double check that, but I'm pretty sure he's on the last year of his deal.
Okay, but that's what I'm saying. But even so, if you, that's the only. I'm looking at it at Toronto's way, at Toronto's point of view. How they're going to do it with the money, and then would it make sense for the Flyers to do that? And sure, I get it. I know what you're saying. Okay, the Rangers traded Mark Stahl, to Detroit, and they took him, and the Rangers also had to give him, I believe, a 2nd-round pick for Detroit just to take him. Okay, so I'm all familiar with all that stuff. Okay, to take the whole contract and the whole cap hit and all that. But I'm just wondering. They can do better than that.
So, Piha saying Morgan's father was well known in Toronto with Q107 Psychedelic Sundays, the announcer of the Leafs. So I think his dad got screwed over is what his comment was. But he did follow up this statement by saying, "Stay away from the Leafs. They are overrated, and keep Frost, who's a talented center." And then he also said, "I would take Robertson for Barkey, small Mish Marner, so we don't need him."
I don't know about that. But what I will say, though, in terms of when you talk about, the cap, you already have, see, what they're offering in Yarncrook, right? We already have a player like that on this squad, Brian. That's the only reason why I disagree with you. I would say in a rebuilding situation, that's exactly what you would do. But they already did that last year when you already have Ryan Johansson on the books for $8 million for this season. So it's like you're kind of doubling up that if you take that deal. But if it's 1 for 1, then you're subtracting from it. So I would say that I don't think Toronto's going to do that. That's why I don't think it gets done. Right, because that doesn't make except Brad does make a good point that Scotty Laughton could be a desirable player for what they're trying to do in Toronto. So hopefully, if they do that, then this could be a deal that could get done in the Flyers' favor.
I mean, absolutely, especially if there's that lore there for Scotty Laughton. I mean, there's a reason why teams were looking at him last year. There's going to be a reason teams are going to look at him again this year.
He's a good
role
has value.
Player, he has leadership, and he's
a good role player.
Yeah, and he signed till 26.
You need to have
a $3 million cap, and he signed for this season and for 25-26. So he's still got 2 more years.
He's got another year after this year. Yeah, I didn't know that, but I mean, right now the Flyers they have to figure out ways to clear cap space. This is a year to do it because you have so much coming off, and then that's going to open up a world of possibilities for them to look at, and maybe not free agency this year because the class isn't going to be great, but Danny said he's going to be super active in free agency in 2026. In order to be able to do that, you need money to work with.
Right.
Look at what Anaheim did. Well, didn't do. They still have the most cap space. Not for lack of trying, but I mean, if the Flyers have a good year this year and they free up a bunch of cap space, they get the guys they need to get taken care of contract-wise, all the RFAs, guys like Cam York, that's still going to leave a lot of money left to look at other role players that are going to fit a little bit better and maybe have more of a long-term future. Maybe Scott Laughton's not that guy. Morgan Frost may not be that person. But you got to take a risk when you're rebuilding. Trading Scott Laughton right now, if it's to Toronto, take half the cap. It's what you have to do right now. They have a good young pipeline where if they trade Laughton, there's somebody down in the minors that they could bring up and fill a fourth or maybe even a third line void. But odds are that's probably going to be Ryan Poehling, who, in my opinion, had a great season last year. Probably one of the better seasons of his career. And he signed here for another couple of years too. So somebody's expendable.
So let's see here. SJM86 saying, I'm 100% with you, Brian. Shed that salary cap and create space while maintaining the young nucleus. Watching them develop while maybe adding more to it along the way.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see what here. Anthony's saying, I would trade for Zegras, put him at center, but if you trade Laughton, another player, and picks, plus the Flyers, have players that can play multi-positions.
Mm-hmm.
Right, exactly. Right.
Jim Binkle is thinking, I want Natchez over Zegras.
Oh, yeah. I'm picking up what you're putting down. I'm here for it.
Available. Nikolai Ehlers is very much available right now, and that's a guy who scores 60 points a season. So that's the left wing. I know he's 28 years old, but that's the guy you want to get if you're going to get a left wing. You know, he's just beginning his prime, and he's got probably 4 years of being a top-notch player. Plus, he's fast as hell.
Yeah,
I know that one just came out of the woodwork, but I was just trying to remember some of the left wings who are on the market right now. And if you really, really want to get a left wing, you know, that can put points on the board now, and he's young enough that you could still keep him around for the rebuild. That'd be a guy you could look at too.
Right.
I mean, if you're going to trade centers, that's who you get.
So next up, let's take a look at, it could be a possibility the Flyers could look into. SJM86 saying, Brad, you're underestimating Briere's ability to make one call and have Howie Roseman look at the books to make it work.
Good point.
Well,
if you get if you get a third team in a trade, so you don't have to keep the money and really make progress, that could work too.
I'd rather, if we're gonna go after anybody in Winnipeg, I like Jim's comment here. I want Cole Perfetti over Nikolai Ehlers.
Agreed.
I don't want to bring in a 28-year-old.
And then Priz is saying Laughton feels like a fit for a new Nashville roster. He says maybe Laughton for Oskarov. I don't know.
Straight up, I'm down.
You think that would be enough? Straight up?
Straight up, absolutely. Let's get it done. Let's go.
All right.
Oskarov, he's an AHL goalie. Come on.
All right. If that's how we're gonna be. All right.
I mean, obviously, it's gonna take more than that, but
all right. Well, he says, SJM says, Law and I could def see on Nashville. Oh wow. He goes on to just bury the Predators. Damn, SJM.
Be careful now. Be careful.
Right. Prism saying generational goalies are even rarer than good ones. Well, it's true. It's true. Yeah, I've heard that him going to the KHL would be the only league that will have him.
They've been saying that for months. He hasn't signed anything yet. I don't know if they're going to take a chance on him.
And yeah, so now that we're caught up with those. So for my answer to the poll for Robertson, honestly, if he's not as good as his brother, and he's at best a depth player, that could be a journeyman in the NHL. I almost feel like is it really even all that different than keeping Laughton? The only difference is salary cap. That's the only difference. If you're doing this to specifically shed cap, then fine. I can understand the decision being made. But if you're doing this because you have this belief that Robertson could be a really solid piece to the Flyers' future, I feel like that's kind of a bold move that's unnecessary, at least in this particular case. Because if Robertson's just like, oh, well, he's not really that good, it's like, then why don't you just keep Laughton? Like, what was the purpose then? You could have saved Laughton for a different trade, and you probably could have gotten something better back for him at the end of the day.
People, I think, are looking at the recency bias with Morgan, right? And after the slow start, yeah, he did have a tremendous second half, Matty, but he still only had 13 goals in 71 games played, whereas they see Nick Robertson with 14 goals in 56 games played, obviously a higher percentage. Right, but a lot less assists. He's not as good of a playmaker as Morgan Frost, and that's what this team needs, especially with an Owen Tippett, with Matvei Michkov. And as we see Michkov integrate onto this team, and Morgan Frost, arguably playing at least top 6 center minutes, if not top line minutes, right, we could see Morgan Frost's stats just quadruple overnight, and then it's like, now we're in business. So it's like you have to look forward, not behind, when you're trying to prognosticate for trades. That's just what you have to do.
Whoa! Who's prognosticating? Let's keep it family friendly over here. Stop it. You got private.
Disrespectful, as my girl says when I use the $10 words.
Brian, I can
put it in the swear jar
too, right? You know I can boot people too, right?
Who you gonna boot?
Oh man!
I think you already know the. I think you already know the answer. I think you already know the answer to that. I feel like you're gonna call my boy out for using sophisticated language like you did me. I'm gonna have to do what I gotta
do. Bottom line, Maddie, you can't play. I don't blame Danny B one bit if he's sniffing around Toronto right now. That's what him and Jonesy have done very well, exploring all options. You need to.
Oh yeah.
Because what if you get Lightning in a bond? You get this guy where he's like, like Jason Robertson part 2. You know what I mean? Like as he develops. I mean, then it's worth shedding for a veteran center that you owe $3 million for the next 2 seasons for.
Mm-hmm.
So, I agree. To me, I feel like it's one of those things of, okay, this is one of those where he's a project. That would be the obvious situation. But for the Morgan Frost side of things, whereas with Laughton, it's a little bit more straightforward. That one's a little bit more like, okay, yeah, you could shed Laughton, and is it the end of the world if you do? No. If anything, it actually benefits your books. Meanwhile, for Frost, on the side of that, how old's Frost again?
24.
So why are we giving up on Frost? Can anyone please tell me that right now? Does anyone out there got a reason to give up on Frost right now? Anybody? Sure.
Well, depends who you're getting.
Sure, yeah, but if I'm not getting Connor McDavid in the other side of it, then it's like, why the hell am I giving up on this kid?
I'm with you, man. I'm not moving Frost. I'm not moving Frost. We've seen a small sample size of what this kid could potentially be.
Didn't he get 26 goals 2 years ago?
Yeah, it was somewhere around there.
Yeah, well, you can't trade him for
nope.
You can't trade him for a third line player on Toronto.
Right.
Yeah.
Even if you're questioning Morgan Frost's durability, well, Nick Robertson isn't an answer for that either because he has his own questions there. So I mean, and then you talk about this trade saga. I was reading this article in on HockeyWriters.com today about where he's seeking a fresh start, but where, and it mentions the Flyers as a potential destination as well as other teams like Oilers, Blue Jackets as well. I mean, it's gotten pretty vicious there in Toronto in terms of this exchange, and he's not really been complimentary in terms of the team's handling of his playing time and consistently being sent down to the AHL. You got to be careful who you're bringing into this locker room too. So I just want to present both sides of that coin in terms of, yeah, you could try to take on a project, but You know, it could be another finger pointer, and we've had enough of those on this team, like fucking Provorov. Excuse my French. Now I'm putting in swear jar.
So I guess you're not interested in Anthony D'Angelo then.
No.
I think we had enough fun with that little fiasco there. We had our time on that ride. Did not enjoy the experience.
Yeah,
vomited afterwards.
Do not want to ride again.
Nope. It's been a few years and I still feel ripped off. Bruce saying, I don't have one reason to trade Frost, and even if I did, I wouldn't give it to you.
Good. Good.
My man.
This is why we love you, Chris.
Sean Patrick saying, I'd rather see Coots on the same line with Michkov versus Frost with Michkov.
I'm on that.
Bengal saying Fedotov got thrown right into the fire last year, and with all brand new equipment to boot, he will be much better. I agree. Yeah. It's too much of a small sample size.
As a guy who sells hockey equipment, I can tell you right now, you need time to break that shit in. Doesn't matter whether you're playing out or playing goaltender, you need time to break that shit in. It does make a difference. And yes, small sample size, 3 games, basically coming right from Russia. Needs time to adjust. I'm all about it. Give him a full camp, and you will see a difference this year.
And I will decide to be a little bit of a broken record and keep in mind the Flyers were on their skid at that point. So you can't even really fault him for everything because the Flyers were playing like crap when he came over.
I mean, the one thing I will say with Michkov is they're to be careful with his minutes in his first year, right? Yeah. And he might not get those exactly full complementary of top line minutes, right? But he'll get his beak wet up there. But if you slide, say, a Morgan Frost with Owen Tippett and Forrester on his natural right wing side on that top line and move Coots down to play with Michkov as he's learning the game and learning from a solid NHL bet, I'm here for that. And then that way you take a little onus off Coots and allow him to play that 200-foot game, which would be really good for Michkov. That's how I could dig it.
Agreed. I dig it too. The development aspect is...
I like that, yeah.
I love it.
Because that's what I was thinking of.
That's what they should be doing. You're right.
Yeah, he can learn from Coots. He can learn how the play works and how the vision and everything like that. Yeah, that's a good idea.
But that is conditional on can Frost step up, because I do agree with a lot of people in the Friars Talk group that when I shared yesterday's A2D quote from the show last week, right, a lot of them are saying this is the year that Morgan Frost needs to put up, and he does. He does need to have a strong 82 this year. That would be a strong feather in his cap.
Right. Lily, I was saying the key is to have a top 5 picks in the 25 pick in 25 draft. Unless you get a first line center, don't trade for a marginal upgrade and cost us a lower pick. That's understandable.
What's up, LJ?
Oh, how you been, bro? Hopefully you've been good. Let's see here. And then Sean saying Tort's got to let him play through his mistakes. Obviously referring to Frost. Can't expect consistency when he's not on the ice consistently. Me Metal Mike's reason for giving up on Frost is because of KFC chicken. And then
call me crazy. Royal Farms is better.
Oh, you're right. I agree.
It doesn't hurt my belly like KFC does.
Which one?
Indigestion. Always.
Big poll. Okay, so big opinion poll here. So now the question is, which one makes you go to the can faster? Is it the Royals Farm or is it the KFC?
No,
which
it's the KFC.
The one?
Definitely
the KFC? Okay.
Gives you the trots.
It's like having coffee and eggs in the morning.
Yeah.
I don't know about the coffee part, but
Jim,
no, it's the combination.
And then let's see, Jim Binkle saying, if anyone can put the puck on Michkov's blade from anywhere, it is Coots. He still has that ability.
Wholeheartedly agree, Jim.
And Sean saying, exactly, the kid can go play his line mates, can make up for his quote-unquote lack of defense. And I'm doing well. Hopefully you're doing well, LJ, as well. Yeah. So let's see here.
I'll be better when I crawl into bed, bro. I'm not even sitting here lying. I'm one more day. I worked a week straight. One more day.
Teddy's saying, did the 2009-10 team have any lottery players? We might just have to build another way and get lucky player-wise. Well, we did have Claude Giroux on that team, and we got him through the drafts, and JVR on top of that. Although JVR is a bit of a sore subject for most people. So
don't trade with Toronto. Come on, it could be another JVR too. Come on, don't do it. Don't do it.
3 first-round picks this year.
right.
Usually it's a Patrick Kane's little sore.
Too.
We lost prime JVR years.
Really, really freaking.
We did, but in exchange, we got a brother combination on this team. Does anyone remember that brother combination? It was one I used to shit on all the fucking time.
Hey, listen, my example from earlier, that works there.
I immediately thought of it too. I'm like, oh
what about
well.
Jim and Joe Watson?
I mean, that's a good one, but I was more talking about Mr. Captain of the St. Louis Blues, Braden Shen, and his awful brother who couldn't play defense, Luke Shen. But anyway,
your favorite defenseman of all time, Matty.
It literally went. My hatred for the D-men and the Flyers team went from Luke Shen to McDonald, and then I think I actually wasn't a big fan of Coburn prior to that because he was starting to fuck up a lot during his last few years there in Philly. But anyway.
I used to call him shithead. I'm like, shithead. I'm like, no, I'm sorry. It's Shen. My bad. My bad.
Oh, man.
Make better plays. I won't call you that.
Right. Oh, totally worth JVR. That just
proves... the Blues trying to pilfer the Oilers. I think you were mentioning that earlier, Brian.
Yes.
Putting conditional claims. I mean, this is going to be a true test for their new GM. You know, especially in his comeback to the NHL.
Yeah, so, I mean, it's a tough situation. Just real quick, then I'll let you take back over, Maddie. Dylan Holloway, which could be a massive land for them. And then it's Philip Broberg. 2 big pieces into this future of the Edmonton Oilers. If they can, St. Louis has them by the balls right now.
Yeah.
Because Edmonton is so close to the salary cap. Me and Priz were talking about this a little bit earlier before I got busy at work and I couldn't reply to him. I'm sorry, Priz.
Likewise.
It forces Edmonton to overpay these 2. Or let them walk, which could be 2 pieces of your future to St. Louis where they can probably flourish a little bit, get a little bit more playing time, and you get a couple picks for them.
What's great, and the value that they put on each conditional pick, right, equated right to that top draft pick. And they have to give up their own draft pick. It's not like they could give up one that they traded from another team or whatever. So they really got him by the balls. But, you know, he's got a lot of experience, so we'll see. We'll see how that goes, how that transpires. I think they keep one of them. I think Holloway walks.
Yeah, I think it's going to wind up being – actually, you know what? I think it's going to be Holloway that winds up staying. I think Broberg's going to walk. Only reason is because – they're trying to hit Broberg with I think it's over $4.5 million a year.
Oh, jeez.
That's going to force Edmonton to pay him at least 5 over 4 years.
Not worth that.
Or even match it. So I'm whatever happens, I'm good because either way, Edmonton's either going to get handcuffed or they're going to lose 2 players.
That's how Carolina got Kotkaniemi from Montreal.
Welcome back, Bowman. Welcome back, man. It's a pickle. It's a pickle.
He can draft like a beast, though.
Yeah, he can.
For St. Louis, they need that. So let's see here.
They need talented youth. I totally agree, Matty.
Yeah. And LJ saying Michkov is an average skater. He needs speed on his line, and Coots isn't that guy.
That's not true. He's pretty fast.
He's great.
Yeah, he can fly. I don't know where you got that from.
Well, wasn't
average skater?
But hold on. Isn't LJ a Caps fan?
Okay.
I don't remember.
I'm just saying, I think if I'm wrong, brother, please, LJ, if I'm wrong about that, feel free to correct me. But if I remember correctly, I thought you were a Caps fan, so you might just be trying to crap on us a little bit. I understand. I respect it. You are a rival, so it's okay. I can respect
calling him out.
Damn. No wonder why LJ doesn't show up every week.
Hey, listen, this is like the one time I've actually done that. So you know what? I think I deserve a little bit of credit.
I'm kidding.
Okay, I'm wrong anyway. He said Flyers, so I'm wrong anyway. Anyway.
I mean, he does.
I thought so. I wasn't sure about that.
I'm trying to, because I remember we did have one fan who was a Caps fan, and I'm trying to remember who it was, and for the life of me, I can't place it. But anyway,
I think it was Youssef.
Yes, it was Youssef. That's who it was. Yes.
I haven't seen Youssef a while in any of the shows. I hope Youssef is doing well if he hears this. But real quick, he doesn't have the skating style of Jamie Drysdale. I'll tell you that right now. But he definitely has some speed. So that'll be good.
All right. So with that, before we close this sucker out, us at 76. Oh man. All right.
That's right,
man.
LJ. Let him know.
There you are. All right, bro.
Let him know.
So with that, good. I think I stoked a fire in him. That's what I like to do. That's what we do here to the fam. You give us the lifeblood, and we stoke a fire in you, even if that means we pissed you off in the long run.
Then we sit at the table and we break bed, and it's all good.
Right. So, all right. So besides
this is what
that,
families do.
So Toronto did have a change in leadership, as it says down there in the ticker. They have switched captains. And, well, I guess Matthews, and we love you too, LJ, brother. We love you too. And so now Matthews is wearing the C, which, I mean, I guess was inevitable. But at the end of the day, with Tavares no longer wearing the C, what do you think that changes for Toronto's fortunes? Because I'm going to be completely honest with you guys. Yes, Matthews busts his ass, and I can never say he's been a prima donna, but I don't think that changes Toronto's fortunes all that much. At least in my opinion.
I disagree with you a little bit, Maddie. I mean, it is logical to go with Matthews as your new captain because of his immense goal-scoring ability. He's putting up, video game-type numbers, but I don't see the leadership beyond the A that he currently wears on his sweater. I've seen him start scuffles and then skate away while others do the dirty work on his team. So I have my doubts. A captain stays in there and scrums. So it'll be interesting to see if he responds like that this year.
Your greatest player ever used to start that stuff. Your greatest captain ever. He used to start that stuff and run away, and then let everybody else do his dirty work for him. So that's not true, and you know who I'm talking about.
But yeah, Clarkie could go if he wanted to, but Clarkie did strategically shit stir and then skate away and let Schultz take care of the business.
Yeah,
but
and Schultz could take care of the business,
right?
Well, if Schultz wasn't on the ice, Kelly or Selesky would do it.
Right. You can call it whatever you want. It's smart because then you're skating away. You're not risking getting yourself taken off the ice. You're gonna let one of your lower guys get taken off the ice. I didn't say it wasn't smart. It's brilliant.
I'm trying to stick up for him and mention sticking up for Auston Matthews because
fair enough.
But
I think it's pussy work, but I agree with you. It's been effective. It's been effective. Obviously, it resulted in 2 cups here, but can it be effective in today's playoff structure?
Oh, it absolutely could.
Yeah. Well, yeah, because we see it with Crosby, too. I think that could be another guy that you put in that label, right?
Mm-hmm. Oh, Matthew Tkachuk?
Yeah, true. Okay, I'm wrong. Yeah, he's a great captain. Fucking Toronto Maple Leafs. That's the 8th curse word of this show. I'm banned. I'm off next week. See you.
You better not. You keep me sane. No.
But what I was going to
knock the camera off.
Matthew Tkachuk starts more crap and runs away than anybody I've ever seen.
I will say, though, but I'm going to be completely honest with you guys. This is just my opinion. I don't think it's just the fact that you change captains. I don't really think that this changes the situation in Toronto. You still have the same knuckleheads out there that still perform when they choose to perform. Marner is the biggest prima donna I've seen in the NHL in recent memory. And Tavares is do nothing. So, it's kind of like, and you have goaltending that can be at best at times questionable. So I'm just going to say right now, Toronto's situation isn't changing, even if Matthews is the captain.
Maddie, that's the whole that you hit it with a nutshell with the goaltending situation. They don't have a real solid goalie, and until they get a real solid goalie, they're never gonna do anything in the playoffs.
Yeah,
I mean this is gonna take a ton of pressure off of Tavares. I'll tell you that right now.
Oh, it will definitely take it off of Tavares, that's for sure.
You're going to see a little bit of a resurgence out of him, mainly because it's a contract year for him. So he's going to be playing for a contract for next year.
Convenient.
That's the point, though. That's why they're stripping him now. It's like you've seen with some of these other teams that are stripping their captains and keeping them on the team. It's the year that they're leaving. Like he knows he's done in Toronto after this year, if he even makes it through the entire season. Plus, he doesn't have to deal with the Toronto media, which is going to probably crush Auston Matthews as well as they crush almost any other captain, because that's probably the worst media in all of the NHL. As bad as people want to claim that the Philadelphia media is, Toronto's 3,000 times worse.
The Philly media
Toronto is like Montreal. They're impossible.
Right.
Yeah. You can't please them no matter what you do. No. But I do think this is setting up for this. I mean, like you said, this is inevitable, Matty. This move is inevitable. He was going to be the next captain regardless of what happened.
Right.
Does it change anything this year? Probably not. But you lose Tavares, and there's probably going to be some other moves made depending on what happens this year.
Right.
Change might not be this year. You might see a completely different team next year.
I think you will, because I mean, this is year 2 of Brad Trevelig's tenure as the Toronto Maple Leafs GM. So here's where you start to see him taking his stamp on this team, especially as contracts start to move along, right? But you've had Brendan Shanahan now as the president here for 10 years, right? I don't see that changing anytime soon, but I think that's where change happens, and it starts at the top. And, we'll see if it's just with the GM or if it goes beyond that.
Well, P says the only good thing is the Leafs did was hire Chief as their new coach.
I do like that. He's going to toughen some of them guys up.
Yeah.
And Priz, you do have a good point. Woll was good in the playoffs. I'll give you that one. Woll did play pretty well. Samsonov was the issue. Which is why it made me question why the hell they started him in critical situations. But anyway.
Shocker. Breaking news. Water wet.
Right.
2-1, baby. 2-1. Shocker.
Oh my gosh, I'm starting to get the sleepy ha-has now.
All right, so we'll wrap this guy up. And yeah, the Toronto media does. Yeah, they can. The media does that a lot anyway. And here in Philly, I feel like the most critical they are is over the Eagles. If I had to pick out of them, it would be by leaps and bounds. The one that gets the heaviest amount of pressure in Philly is the Eagles.
They're brutal.
The Flyers, I think, get the least amount of it because out of the 4, Flyers are 4. I feel like the next bit of pressure goes, I think, more to the Sixers than even the Phillies. So, I mean, debatable. But I think it's in between those two teams right there in the middle. Anyway, what's up, Greg? Yes, you are late, but we won't hold that against you. Anyway.
Hey, the show will be ready to view from the beginning in a matter of seconds after we log off on YouTube. So just head on over if you're not already there.
Right. So thanks you to everybody tonight for chiming in. All the new blood that we saw here tonight. We hope that you guys did what the little flashing icon tells you to do, which is hit like, hit subscribe, and hit the bell icon so you know what to do and where to go for all your future updates and what have you here, and all the future shows. Yes, that one right there.
No, that one.
Yeah, that guy. Yeah. He's very nice, by the way. Very friendly person. You should definitely consider, doing that. So, anyway, we thank everybody for joining us. We thank everybody for joining us for this edition of Flyers Talk A2D. We hope everybody stays safe and stays healthy out there. Next week, we will once again be bringing you any major updates that's happened around the league. We'll also be talking about any major updates, of course, with the Flyers, any rumors like we did today or whatnot that could come out. Who knows? A week is a long time. A lot can happen in a week. And when we do, you can best assure we'll have plenty of shenanigans ready for you, as we always do. And we don't even plan it out. So we will see you.
Training camp.
We are getting very close. Very, very close, gentlemen. So we will see you guys next week right here on a2dradio.com, brought to you by Specialized Physical Therapy. We will see you guys next week here on a2dradio.com. Peace and love, everyone.